Christian Parenting.
Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Thurling. I'm the Executive Director of Christian Parenting, a mom of 3, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a place where you can bring your real self, no matter what that looks like today, and be given the space, resources, and encouragement you need to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parent God made you to be. We just released a brand new product over at Christian Parenting that I am so excited about, and I think that you guys are really going to love. I'm so proud of this product, and I hope that you guys do love it as much as I do. Our brand new scripture affirmation cards. These cards are a fun and an easy way to help your kids grow in confidence and an unshakable faith. Each card has a unique biblical truth and affirmation that is rooted in scripture and gives your kids a powerful tool to affirm their identity in Christ, align their thoughts with God's word, and give them the confidence they need to face any of the problems or insecurities kids face today. Things like, what if I don't make the team? What if things don't go as planned? What if I feel lonely? Or what if I feel worried? They're perfectly sized so your kids can bring them wherever they go and be reminded that they're loved by you and by God. To get your cards, you can go to cpgive.org. Again, that's cpgive.org. Hey guys, so I was so excited to be able to sit down today with Carlos Whittaker for this interview. He was so fun and so encouraging, and I think that you'll really enjoy our conversation. Carlos is a dad of 3. He is a storyteller, he's a speaker, and he is author of several books, including his latest, Get Your Hopes Up, 90 Devotions and True Stories for Young World Changers. Carlos today shares his experiences as a parent, and he offers insight on raising today's kids. He emphasizes the importance of pouring love and energy into our kids when they're young, and then encourages us to peel away the fear of our kids getting older. We also talk about the challenges of anxiety and fear in kids today, how age-appropriate conversations and involving kids in finding solutions is helpful, and, of course, the power of hope in finding it in God to counteract the negativity that we often see in this world. I hope that you love this conversation as much as I did. Hi, Carlos. Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast.
Why, hello. I'm so excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you, get to know you a little bit, and talk
Yes.
all about your book that you have out. So before we get into that, let's talk about you.
Okay.
So can you tell us about yourself, about your family, and then can you describe your family in that one word or phrase?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, let's talk about my family. Then I'm the easy part. I can describe what I do in like 2 seconds. But my family, we've been married. My wife and I, Heather, have been married. We got married in 2000. So it's always easy to know how long we've been married, because when you get married with zeros at the end of the year, I'm like, well, what year is it? And we've been married 24 years this year. So it will be 24
helpful.
years this year, which, gosh, the more, 24 years, like that's how old my parents are supposed to, how long they're supposed to be married. So we're in it. We are having a blast. And then we've got 3 beautiful children. They're not children anymore. I've got a 21-year-old daughter, Sohaila, who was getting married in May in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So she's my first child, first one getting married. So my heart is being pulled in all the right places. Then we've got a 20-year-old daughter, Sayana. She's in college with her sister at our church, the Belonging Co. here in Nashville, Tennessee, has a college. So they're both attending there. And then I've got a 17-year-old son who, 17-year-old son trying to help him figure it out. And so it's we have a blast. We all still live here in Nashville, Tennessee. 2 of the 3 of the kids are still in the house. And yeah, we've got 2 dogs, a bunch of chickens, and a cat, and so here is where I kind of base my operations out of. It's so hard to tell people what it is I do, but I guess at the end of the day, like I write books, I talk about said books, and then I talk into my phone a lot. So like I look at the camera on my phone, and I talk to Instagram a lot every day as well, or YouTube. And yeah, it's not a job I ever thought I would have, but it's a job that I love. So this is the first time I've been able to write with a younger audience in mind. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of fun, and just leaning into the Christian parenting, like giving them another tool for their kids. I think we pulled it off pretty well. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah. You didn't
Oh,
give us
wait,
your
hold on. One
word,
word.
though.
One
Yeah.
word. One word. I almost forgot the one
I'm
word.
going to make you do
I
it.
think, I think the one word, I'm going to try to not make it a compound word. The one word to describe my family is flow. Flow. Because we just go with the flow. All my kids, myself, we could go on an overseas trip, and this is going to stress some of your listeners out. And we will land in Scotland at 7 a.m. and have no idea where we're staying that night. We just go with the flow. And it has turned, there's been some bad things that have come about because of that, but most of it has been great. So flow is the word I'm going to use to describe my family.
Okay. I feel like I'm a pretty go with the flow person. Like I like to have a big picture plan, but I'm very flexible in my day. Things don't rattle me. I can go with the flow. We are going overseas in a couple of weeks, and I have a basically hour by hour itinerary.
Like spreadsheet. Yes, I get it. No, I totally get it. And we were like that at the beginning. We just started going to Africa so many times with our kids that if when you land in Africa, you basically have to go with the flow because there is no flow or no structure. So that I think that helped out us a lot.
Okay, that's fair. Because we did go to Guatemala last year, and that was a lot more go with the flow. We didn't really have a schedule. This time's London, and it's like, I got to hit all the things.
No, you got to hit the things in London.
So I need my spreadsheet.
Absolutely. Make it happen, Steph.
Yeah, whether you're a spreadsheet traveler or a go with the flow traveler, you are welcome here.
You are welcome here.
Yeah.
Flow or not flow. If you're stuck or if you're flowing, we got you.
You will learn something here.
That's right.
Okay. So then my other question is, what is one thing you want every parent to know?
Gosh. One thing I want every parent to know is that I think, especially I think parents of younger kids, if you pour in the right amount of love and energy when they're young, I just would love for people to start peeling away the fear of your kids getting older. I have just fallen in love with every stage of my kids, so Heather and I just laugh because we're like, oh, this is the best stage when they're in princess dresses and twirling around the room. We're like, I don't want this stage to end. Oh my gosh, it's going to be horrible. And then they pop into the next stage and we're like, oh my gosh, I don't want this one. This is even better and even better. And so, here I find myself where my 21-year-old daughter's still living at home. She'll move out when she gets married, and I'm loving this stage. And so every stage is just, it's beautiful. You can look forward to it. You don't have to worry about them losing who they were when they were little. I tell parents this all the time. My 21-year-old daughter, Sohaila, she was the quintessential Disney princess. Always wore her Disney princess pajamas 24/7. If we went to church, she was always in them twirling around. And, just a couple months ago, I look in the backyard, we've got chickens, and she was back there gathering the eggs. And she was kind of, again, at 21 years old, she was like spinning around like in the chicken coop, right? And I was like, what is she doing? So like I waited for her to come upstairs. She was almost dancing. And I looked and I saw she had AirPods in. And I said, hey, babe, what were you listening to down there? And she's like, she looked a little embarrassed being 21. She's like, oh, I was listening to the Beauty and the Beast, little town in a quiet field. And so she is still the same little girl that she was, and so it's my job. It has been my job to make sure that is protected, in her. And now that she is getting married, I am, I am allowing somebody else to begin to protect and nourish and nurture that part of who she is as well. So that's what I would say to parents is pour it in at the beginning. And you're not going to have to worry about the later stages of, your kids they're going to make their own decisions. They're going to make bad decisions. But I think if we do it right at the beginning, even in their bad decisions, they're going to come back pretty quickly.
I just really love every time someone talks about the later stages of parenting and how fun it is and how much they love it. It just makes my heart just so happy because I think I'm in the greatest stage of parenting right now. And I really don't want it to end. Even though there are challenges, I don't want it to end. But I know that it's going to continue to be better. So I always get very hopeful when I hear other people say that. Like, yes, it's good.
It is good. It is the sweet. And now again, what I don't understand is people that are the grandparents that are like, oh, you're right on the cusp. Just wait. When you become a grandparent, it's going to be even better. And I'm like, okay, listen, there's something that I think is accelerating it too far. I'm not ready for that yet, but so.
Yeah. I do talk to my parents and they're like, I think I'm busier now as a grandparent than I ever was. Cause now they have like 10 grandkids instead of 3 kids. And that's
amazing.
So that'll be fun too.
I love it.
But we can get you through a wedding first.
Yes. Let's get through the wedding first. Let's get through I just think if I can get through seeing her in her dress, cause I haven't seen it. They're not letting me see it. And I was like, can we at least have like 3 minutes alone before, so I can get it all out of my system before I walk you down after I see you. So she's like, yes, Daddy. And so, let's get me through that day. And I think I'll be okay.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you guys. That'll be a really fun season for you.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about kids today.
Okay.
Because it's different than being a kid before. Not everything, of course, is different. Sometimes I think we focus too much on how the world is so, so different. And there are some things that are really similar, like have always been. But we don't get the dad perspective that often on this show. We have a lot more moms on than dads. So I'm curious, as a dad, what are you observing about growing up in today's world?
Yeah, I think observing, I think from the perspective of just dads in general, something that I see that I think is encouraging is I do feel like I see a lot more dads being really sharing the load with moms. I see a lot of dads that are taking the responsibility. They've kind of brushed off what the 50s taught us about being a dad. And it's like, you know what? No, I think I should be a lot more involved, not just a little bit more, a lot more involved in the parenting side of things. And so I think that's really encouraging as far as looking at dads. There's a lot of dad content out there, podcasts and YouTube channels where, men are actually trying to help other men become better fathers. And so I think that is something that I've seen that is really encouraging. Now, let me look at how kids are growing up. And I would give a word of caution to parents that, there's too much amount of data to show us that anxiety and fear is just exploding in our kids. Yeah. And I believe it. I was a pretty anxious kid, but I think if I was a kid now, the amount of stuff that is coming in, the amount of content that they're seeing, the amount of conversations that they're hearing from their parents. And so a lot of times I tell parents these days, because of what I see in kids just being so anxious, is like, well, let's think about what they're hearing us say. What are our kids hearing us say back to the TV as we're listening to whatever global trauma and tragedy that we're consuming for that evening? And how much of this stuff is impacting our kids' psyche, their souls, their hearts? And so, a little word of encouragement to parents is, be careful how much of the world that we're allowing our kids to swim around in, and listen, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm not like the protect our kids from every single thing that's coming, like keep them sheltered. That has never been the way. But also we are living in a season where, we were the last of our friends, of our kids' friends. They were the last ones to get phones. Right. So we hung on. And we finally let them have phones after all their friends had phones. If I could have done it again, I would have waited longer. Like I still would have waited even longer, because it just gives them more access to things that will create anxiety in them. So I think anxiety is the thing, and fear and worry is one of the massive things that I'm seeing kids struggle with. And I think that there are things that we as parents can do, and we don't just have to give into it. We can be very proactive in those things. So those are some things that I'm seeing, from a dad's perspective.
Yeah, I do agree with you that it hasn't been as much dad content previously, and we're getting more of it. Even when my kids were younger, which my oldest is 12. So my kids are still young, but even 10 years ago, my husband, I remember we had a lot of conversations where he was getting frustrated because I would go to like my MOPS group or my Bible study and come home with all these resources. And he was like, I don't even like have
What
a
about me?
friend to call.
Yes, that is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, it is.
good to see that like there's more available and that there's some
Absolutely.
load sharing because
I
difficult
know.
to
I
navigate.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys, what happens when you combine the power of neuroscience with love and logic in parenting? You grow confident, kind, responsible, and resilient children and young adults, and I know that's a desire of mine for sure. Dr. Daniel Amen, neuropsychiatrist and founder of Amen Clinics, and Dr. Charles Fay, a child psychologist and president of the Love and Logic Institute, have teamed up to reveal what's missing from most parenting books in their new book, Raising Mentally Strong Kids. You need to address both the brain and the mind of your child and yourself in order to effectively raise good and strong humans. So in this groundbreaking book, parents are given practical tools to help children of all ages go from behavioral problems like defiance, meltdowns, and power struggles to being responsible, confident, kind, focused, motivated, and equipped to develop healthy relationships. Let Dr. Amen and Dr. Fay help you learn how to raise great kids who are on their way to reaching their full potential and their best possible mental health. You can visit mentallystrongkids.com to learn more. All right, you guys, I have an exciting code for you today from one of my absolute favorite websites. HomeThreads has quickly become one of my favorite places to shop for my house. At homethreads.com, you will discover furniture designed with the values of Christian parenting in mind. From prayerful spaces to family-friendly comfort, their pieces are crafted to nurture your children's hearts and souls, all while giving you the best value. I recently got an amazing bakeware set that I absolutely love. There are so many products available, you're definitely going to find anything you need to make your home both functional and cozy. You can visit homethreads.com/CP podcast today and get your code for 15% off your order. Raising a family with faith should be reflected in every corner of your home. HomeThreads, love where you live. At Christian Parenting, we are like passionate about raising the next generation of culture-changing Christians. Like it is our mission to equip parents with the tools to do that. And that's what your book is about too, creating a generation of world changers. And so I think they just tie so well together. So I think it's a great conversation to have because we don't need a generation of kids who just keep their faith to themselves. Like we need them to go and change the world around them.
Absolutely.
And that does involve facing the world and it involves just looking at it differently. So let's talk about kind of two different things. First, how do we help our kids navigate some of that stuff you were talking about earlier? Like some of the anxiety, seeing all this stuff on the news, just having so much information. How do we help our kids navigate some of the difficult things that we face?
Yeah, I think that, and this is just from my own personal parenting style and mine and Heather's is we don't shy away from having harder conversations with them. Like I think our kids are, they're more capable to have some conversations than I think we give them credit for. And so when having these conversations, so that doesn't mean that you have to allow all of the content and all of the news and all of the things to come in. You can have the conversations about, there's horrible things kids have to think about now that I didn't have to think about, right? Like shootings in schools or things that I was never scared about that kids are worried about on a daily basis now. So I think having those conversations in age appropriate ways, I think is really helpful. There's Sissy Goff from Raising Boys and Girls. She's got a resource that I think it may have been an Instagram Live, like legitimately how to have these conversations about some of these scary things that kids think about every day in age appropriate manner. So like if you've got a 5-year-old, if you've got an 8-year-old, if you've got a 12-year-old, there's different ways I think to approach those things. And so don't avoid those. But also I think allow your kid to realize that they don't have to wait to become an adult to be part of the solution. And again, there's so many things that we're just going to protect our kids. Well, what if the kids are the ones that can figure out how to fix this thing? What if it's our kids because they're actually in a lot of these situations that have the ideas that we maybe can work from? And so let them be part of the solution. There's a couple stories in my book, Get Your Hopes Up, where I legitimately talk about kids that they saw, they were passionate about the environment. And so she started, picking up, going to the local park and picking up trash. And she felt like she was doing something that a child was able to do. And it turned into like this whole neighborhood movement and then city movement. And so I think that kids, we don't give them the credit that they deserve when it's like, you may have a better idea than even we have. So allow them to maybe even work into, well, how do you think we can solve this problem instead of just telling them about the problem? So I think maybe those are a couple ways we can lean into that.
Yeah. I like that too, because we're quick to give answers, right?
Oh, so
like
quick.
we're quick to be like, let me explain to you this thing. And then it just turns into a whole lesson. But that's so hands-on and tangible for kids, which is how they're going to learn.
That is exactly how they're going to learn. I still, even with my 17-year-old, like one thing that parents, I think, have a hard time saying, not even parents, leaders in general, are 3 words. I don't know. Like if we can say that more to our kids, I don't know. What do you think? Gosh, the amount of times that I've brought out conversations from my 17-year-old son that just doesn't like to talk, period, by saying, I don't know. What do you think? And then he's like, well, and then all of a sudden, the gates open up and here I see his heart and all of these things. Those 3 words, I don't know. And then what do you think? 4 more words. Let's see what happens when you give those things a shot every day.
Yeah. We say, I don't know, but let's find out together. And I had to add the let's find out together because there are so many times that my kids would ask me a question and I would say, I don't know. And they would continue to ask, like, surely you do know. And I'm like, no, I truly don't know. Like, I don't know means I don't have like a mystery.
Right. Yeah, no, totally.
So yes, let's find out together. And then they're like, oh no, mom like really doesn't know.
Yeah, right. Oh wow, mom doesn't know.
Yeah, she doesn't know everything.
So good.
Turns out. I feel like sometimes there is a balance, right? Because we want to have the conversations, we want to do that. But like sometimes we just get too afraid. We get caught up in just being overwhelmed by everything that's going on. Yep. And you're all about hope. You want us to focus on hope. So what do you feel like are some of the things we can be hopeful about right now?
Oh my gosh. So much, I walked outside today after it's been 25 degrees in Nashville and I looked down and I saw a daffodil exploding from the ground. And I was like, I literally, by seeing the little bud of yellow, I got hope inside my chest. And I'm like, I think sometimes we're trying to look to society and culture for hope. And can I let everybody know? Okay. If you're a Christian and you're trying to win the culture war in the United States of America, can I go ahead and clue everybody? That's over. That like the culture war, that fight, that horse has left the barn or whatever that is, like that's not where we're going to find hope, is in trying to win things. I believe that hope is literally all around us, right in front of our nose, if we choose to look at it. That doesn't mean to stop caring about, important issues and, things that we can, help navigate as Christians in society. But I think sometimes we're looking at the wrong places to find our hope. I used to say a phrase in like 2020 when I had a book come out called Inner Wild that said, our help is in the natural and our hope is in the supernatural. And so help is good. I think there's great things that are very helpful, right? We've got medicine, we've got doctors, we've got, certain perspectives and policies and things like that. I think those are very helpful, but they're not really hopeful. What's hopeful is the supernatural, right? Which is a tulip blossoming is supernatural. There's nothing we can do to make that happen. That is a supernatural thing that God has created for us to see every single day. What are other things in the supernatural that we can place our hope in? How can we help our kids begin to see that our hope is in the supernatural and place our hope in those things? And again, in my book, Get Your Hopes Up, I probably have about 25 stories of just that, of helping parents find things that their kids can hope in that won't break their hearts on a daily basis. Because there's way too many things that will break our hearts every single day. But there's so many things like scripture, right? Like just finding scriptures every day that you can read that maybe can replace some lies that your kids are believing. And so I've got a lot of scriptures in there when your kid thinks that, if they are always saying that they're worried or they're anxious, well, find some scriptures that replace those lies, right? I am the body of Christ, and Satan has no power over me, for I overcome evil with good. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I will fear no evil, for you are with me, Lord. Like, those are things that they can say, that they can find hope in, that literally it's supernatural when you start praying these promises as opposed to praying the problems. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk all day long, Steph, on this point, because I just feel like there is so much hope around us. People say we're the most divided we've ever been. That's actually not true. If you just open up a history book, trust me, the world has always been as divided. We just have more access to other people's opinions in 2024. So now we just have to navigate how to find hope when we're getting bombarded by the opposite of hope every single day. So those are just a couple ways.
I wonder what would happen to us and to our kids if we spent less time thinking about those natural things or talking about those things and just a little more time pointing out the daffodil.
Yes.
Like,
gosh, one of the things when I was going through a lot of us were going through in 2020, just a very traumatizing time. I was so anxious, and I'll never forget walking outside, sitting on my porch. So I guess this was March, April, and riddled with anxiety, and just like opening my Bible, trying to find a Bible verse, like, God, give me something. Nothing was working. And I'll just never forget seeing this robin like fly down right in front of me. And it just kind of looked at me, kind of, started doing the weird bird head thing. And I was like looking at this bird, and it hopped around the grass, and it all of a sudden it looks down, and it sticks its beak down, and it pulls up a worm, and then it flies away. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, how did it know there was a worm there? How did it find that worm? And then all of a sudden it came back down, hopped around, grabbed another worm, hopped up, flew. And then I looked up and I started seeing all these birds, and I was like, literally, this is what that Bible verse is talking about. Like, the birds are not stressed. They're hopping down. They're grabbing. There's worms in front of all of us right now. Why am I so stressed? And you know what? I started sitting out there with the birds, and I got really into the birds on my Instagram, and I started getting bird feeders and bird houses, because there was something about the supernatural in the natural in nature that we see that I think it can help for your kids too. Just brought me a sense of peace. And hope that I wasn't finding in all of those natural things, right?
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about your book, because I feel like I'm excited about it because my kids learn so much from stories and hearing other people's stories. And so I love that we can learn how we can change the world around us by talking about how other people have too. So tell us a little bit what was in it. What's it about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's 90 devotions and true stories. And so, if you're thinking it's just going to be like an Oswald Chambers devotional, My Utmost for His Highest, it's not going to be precisely that. What I loved to do, I'm a storyteller, is just find stories not only from my life, but some of my family's life. My daughter, Sohaila, when she had a really scary health scare and was in the hospital for a month, I asked her story. And so they can learn how she found hope, even though she was hurting every single day. But then we also, looked at some heroes that have done hopeful work for the community. And so there's a lot of, I talk about the youngest mayor in a large city in the United States from Stockton, California. And he was the mayor at 28 years old, how he was so young, but he stepped in and suddenly the city found hope. And so I use his story, as well. I've got a couple of doctor friends that, we look at the hopeful side of medicine and the hopeful side of some other things. And so I think that at the end of the 90 days, what I'm hoping is that twofold, that our kids that are going through the book literally feel so empowered of what I was talking about earlier. Like, they don't need to rely on mom and dad solely to find their hope. They can do it on their own now. They can open up the Bible. I've taught them where to look in scripture, and they can find the hope for themselves, but also that they realize that they can become a hope giver, a hope dealer themselves by looking at some of the stories, real life stories of people in here. And I also think it's, to be honest with you, just the fact that I'm a guy and I wrote a book from kind of my guy's perspective. There's not a lot of books out there from men for kids this age. And so I think that's going to be helpful as well. So those are just a couple things that I'm really, really excited about when it comes to the book.
Yeah. I'm excited about that too, because like I said, we don't have that many dads on this podcast because
Yeah.
there are a lot of moms who are writing to parents
Yep.
and to kids. So I think it is really good, especially because some of those teenage boys, they're just a little different.
They're
just
just a
different.
little / lot different.
They really
Absolutely.
are. They're
Yeah,
fun, but
yeah.
they're different. I grew up with 2 sisters, and so now I have
Yeah.
2 boys and a girl. But
Uh-huh.
my boys are my oldest ones, and I'm like, I don't know what to do
You're
with you.
like, what?
Like,
why are you grunting? Does that mean something?
Like, why do you always have to touch each other? Why are you always
Right.
moving?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yes, even our tween and teen boys can be hope dealers as well. It's just going to look a little different.
Yeah. Okay, before we go, tell us how this kind of has played out in your own family. Like, how have you personally raised some hope dealers?
Yeah. They have, again, most of parenting is, I think with our kids, we had a pastor named Jim. He was our kids pastor. Can't remember his last name. And he used to always say, most of parenting is caught rather than taught. And every time he would say that, I was like, it's so true. If you're just acting the way you want your kids to act, they're going to catch that as opposed to telling your kids how to act. And so when it comes to being a hope dealer, my wife was so good at this. One of the things that when the kids were really little, we would have bags in the back seat. We would make little bags for the people that were at stop signs that were, asking for money. And so in the bags were, they'd put apples and oranges and maybe some fruit roll-ups or beef jerky. And we'd get to a place and they were so excited to, roll the window down. Mm-hmm. And so they'd stick it out and they'd hand it to the person that was in need. And here's the crazy thing. This is what I'm talking about, caught then drop. We probably stopped, maybe they were preteens, they kind of stopped getting excited about that. And, I'd say for like 5-6 years, like I never even saw one of those bags in the back of the car. And then I got in my 20-year-old daughter's car, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago. She went and got a brand new car. And so we were taking her car to CarMax. And when you take your car to the dealer, you have to take everything out of it. And lo and behold, we start pulling out of her trunk. She had all these bags that she has made and that she hands out now. And she was almost embarrassed. Like she was like, oh, Dad, like, and I was like, this is, because I made a big deal about it. I was like, oh my gosh, you're still doing it, And so I just think if you do what you want your kids to do in front of them, they'll become hope dealers. And so, again, I do it a lot on my Instagram. I raise a lot of money for people, and so, I'll raise $100,000 and give it to, a worker at a airport or something like that. And my kids see that. And so they see that and they become givers. And so I just think that, and then I look at my parents and I was like, oh, wow, I think I caught that from my dad. I think watching my dad do that as well. So it's just, most things are caught as opposed to taught. And thank you, Jim, Pastor Jim, for giving me that little phrase. But I think that is a way that we can make sure that our kids become that as well.
Yeah. But I like that you emphasize that you guys stopped doing it as a family or even thinking about it, because sometimes I think we have the short term in mind, right? Like, we used to do that. That was fun. Now we're done. And
right. That's so
it really
good.
did matter, even though it just seemed like a short time for you.
Yeah.
For her, it made a lasting impact and you didn't even know.
I didn't even know.
Like, what are the things that we are doing right now that's making a lasting impact on our kids that we don't even know?
Uh-huh.
I mean, probably more than we think, right?
Way more. Good and bad, FYI.
Yeah, I was just thinking and what are the things we're doing that are making a negative lasting impact?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We will all put our kids in therapy for some reason or another. So
we are not perfect. That is for sure. That's why we need Jesus and a lot of hope.
That's right. Amen. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Can you tell us before we go how to connect with you and then how to get a copy of this book for the kids?
Yes, absolutely. So, Get Your Hopes Up is the name of the book, and it's everywhere. It's on Amazon. It's probably the fastest way, but I think it's at Barnes & Noble, a couple brick and mortar stores as well. And honestly, like where to hang out with me, most, you can go to my website. That's fine. That's kind of boring. But most of the time I'm just on Instagram. I'm trying to spread hope and lead people to freedom in some way, shape, or form in my storytelling on there every day. I am on Twitter too, but I tell people it's kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. If you want to see like grumpy Carlos, go to Twitter, but like happy Carlos is on Instagram. But yeah, those are the places that I hang out every single day. And I'd love for you to join the Insta Familia. Come on in. So
yeah. Thank you. I'll put all that in show notes so people can find you easily.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Steph.
you so much. Thank you for being on. I really appreciate your time.
No, absolutely. And thank you for sharing this. It's funny. I was telling Heather the other day, I was like, I'm actually I'm about to release my 5th adult trade book in the fall, but I'm like more proud of this thing than I am all my other books. I just feel like, man, like sometimes when you're talking to grownups, it's like, they've heard this all and they're still not changing, but I feel like if I can get them when they're 9, 10, 11, 12, then maybe we could really change things. So anyway, I'm really excited about it.
Next generation of culture changing Christians. It doesn't happen on accident.
Nope. That's it.
Yes,
so good.
Thank you for playing a role in it. We appreciate it.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you. I loved Carlos's encouragement to get our kids involved, and I feel really challenged to make sure I get my kids active in changing the world around us and raising 3 little hope dealers. I have links and show notes that you can connect with Carlos and get a copy of Get Your Hopes Up for all the kids in your life. Thank you for joining us. May God bless you this week. May you be filled with hope from the God who knows you, sees you, loves you, and saves you. Thank you so much for listening to the Christian Parenting Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you love this podcast, would you please consider leaving a review and sharing it with a friend? This is the best way to reach more people and encourage even more parents. Christian Parenting is a donor-funded ministry, and we rely on friends like you to keep podcasts like this going. So to find out more about Christian parenting and to make a donation, head over to christianparenting.org or at christianparenting_org on Instagram. Thank you again. See you next week.
As humans, we're naturally driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. When I was looking to hire someone, it was so slow and overwhelming. I wish I had used Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.